if you Google my name on YouTube, you get shitheads like this dude who are making these dumbass videos that just say the same shit over and over again. It's like, I can't give you attention because you're a garbage human. Whatever, dude. But it's, you know, like the fact that these dudes are making endless videos that just go after every feminist over and over and over again, I think is a part of the issue of why we have to have these conversations. We don't just get to be online.
Carl is a man who literally profits from harassing me and other women. He makes over $5,000 a month on Patreon for creating YouTube videos that mock, insult, and discredit myself and other women online, and he's not alone. He is one of several YouTubers who profit from the cottage industry of online harassment and anti-feminism. Together, these people have millions of followers who are regularly encouraged by the videos and tweets of these individuals to harass me and other women who make videos daring to assert the basic humanity of women, people of color, trans folks, and members of other marginalized groups. It's a deliberate act to create an environment that feels hostile, to communicate to us that if we even dare to show up in a public to express the ideas that we express online, the harassment will follow us into the physical world as well. Now he and his followers are acting as if me publicly calling him a garbage human is the equivalent of to what he's done to me. In truth, he and his followers cannot begin to imagine what it is to have to be constantly beg for and fight for basic humanity in a culture that just fundamentally refuses to acknowledge it. He cannot imagine what it is to spend years and years being target of floods of harassment and hate, and then still go out there and keep fighting, as if power is accepting a culture in which women are second-class citizens, in which misogyny and the workplace harassment and rape are the norm. Fuck that. I'll never settle for that. After everything I've been put through by Carl and other men just like him, I'm still powerful enough to go out there and try to change it. Anita, you label me as a harasser of you, along with many other creators here on YouTube, including Carl, Sargon of Akkad, because there's this underlying way of thinking that if I criticize anything you say, which I have done in the past with criticizing your trope versus video game series, I therefore am harassing you because I criticize your ideas, and this just simply isn't the case. So this makes me want to ask my audience, am I responsible if I make a civil response video criticizing somebody's ideology or their opinion on feminism or tropes versus video games? Am I responsible for what my followers say right on a YouTube comment? They go to her video or they tweet her horrible things. Am I responsible for that? No. I want to know how I am responsible for what other people do. I can't control my audience, but what I can do is speak and say the same things I've done in countless videos, as I don't support anybody who goes out and harasses anybody, docks somebody, puts out personal information on somebody, sends death threats to any extent, because I myself have been the brunt of that. I've had my credit card number leaked twice by the same fucker who got into my phone account, got into my Verizon account, got all my phone contacts, and texted a bunch of people that were on my phone sexually explicit messages that looked like they came from me that I didn't fucking send. I've had the FBI visit me twice over a false bomb threat and drugs. My parents' personal information has been all leaked. Their phone numbers have been leaked because I am their son. I have been literally stalked at conventions and had people follow me and make me feel uncomfortable. I've been touched inappropriately at conventions by fans. But guess what? You rarely ever hear me talk about these experiences. I've been harassed. That doesn't take away your experiences that you've went through, but I do believe there's an equal bar that's been set between what we content creators, whether it's you, Anita, whether it's Carl, whether it's me, whether it's any woman or man, that we go through very similar experiences. And because we go through very similar experiences, I don't think one experience outplays somebody else. This isn't about who has been harassed more, who can garner more sympathy, who has the worst stalker stories. This isn't about outplaying somebody on who's been harassed. It's about coming to an understanding that these things happen, they're fucked up, and we need to condemn these types of actions. But even when myself, Carl, or anybody condemns these behaviors that fans or followers do, we're still labeled these horrible, patriarchal, misogynistic fucking harassers who want to intimidate you. What Carl did sitting in the front row, not saying a goddamn word, if you're intimidated by that, then you are a fucking weak person. You are weak. And I don't like saying that. I don't think women should be looked upon as weak, because they're not. But to be in a position that you were on a panel and do what you did and said what you did on an audience member violating VidCon's own policy, which we'll get into in a second here. It just goes to show how unprofessional and inappropriate you are as a person, and that you are a woman who can't control her emotions. Bravo for making yourself look like a complete and utter imbecile. If I was on a panel and I saw Repzion in the front row, my last thought would be to call him out on the panel in a position where he can't actually physically respond to anything that I'm saying. It would be unprofessional and inappropriate for me to do the same. And I would never want to do that, because not only would it make the audience feel uncomfortable, or I may make that person feel uncomfortable in a position in a public room with a bunch of different people around me. I just wouldn't want even somebody who I don't like Repzion, I wouldn't want to make them feel humiliated in any way. That would never be something that I would be proud of doing. Now again, Carl, I don't believe was humiliated at all, but I'm just saying, if I was in this situation, I would never want to do what she did. I would feel bad for doing something. If I reacted with calling someone out, in an audience like that, it shows how unprofessional you are as a person, and that you have no self-control, and that's concerning to me. But here's what really grinds my gears. VidCon has a strict policy, and Anita Sarkeesian violated that policy, and Hank Green even acknowledges that she violated that policy by doing something that anyone else, other than apparently Anita Sarkeesian, if this was a man on the panelist calling out a woman in the audience, exactly like Anita did to Carl, you can bet your goddamn ass that they would not be allowed back at VidCon, because VidCon has, not allowed a lot of people to come because of their actions or behaviors. And this morning, Hank Green finally responded by saying this. During the panel, a panelist called out one of our audience members for being someone who has made her life very difficult and wished she didn't have to give him attention because he was a, quote, garbage human. Look, we don't want our panelists to insult our audience members, even when we completely understand that comment exists in a much broader and pretty much messed up context. Even when people have said hateful things to everyone in our office disagrees with, we have a policy that if it exists not just to protect the people of the show, but to protect our ability to have these conversations. Our founder, Hank Reed, talked with the panelists and said two things. One, he told her that her comment violated our policy, but that he understood that there was a broader context, which, to be clear, we were blissfully ignorant up until this week and remain inexpert in. He apologized to her for not having been more aware of the active in understanding the situation before this event, which resulted in her being subjected to a hostile environment that she had not signed up for. Now, this is the part that really grinds my gears here. This is the difficult situation to build a policy to alleviate. But we ask that all of the people involved consider the power of our actions and statements both online and in the real world. Be one specific note, if people attend VidCon to collect footage to later use in videos that criticize not just ideas, but focus the outrage of their followers on individuals, they will not be welcome back. Does this mean that I can't go to VidCon next year because I attended in 2012? And Anita likes to put me in that compilation of online harassers. But I've never ever condoned anyone, and I've always spoken out against anyone going to her and harassing her and saying things and making threats. I've always spoken out against it. I'm speaking out against it in this video. But even then, again, somehow I'm responsible for what every individual does on the internet who watches me. I just love my ability to be able to control thousands of people. Does this mean that Sargon of Akkad will not be able to attend VidCon next year? That's the impression I got from this statement. People are reaching out to Hank Green, the creator of VidCon, trying to ask him for clarification here. Because quite frankly, this pretty much kind of sounds like, yeah, if you are somebody who makes videos critiquing someone, whether or not you garner an outrage of your followers, if you critique her ideas and you want to attend a panel and listen to what that person has to say, you're not welcome back, because sitting in an audience, not saying anything, not antagonizing anybody, not doing anything to get a reaction out of a crowd, you just being there, the presence of you is harassment. And I'm sorry, but anyone, whether that be Hank, Anita, or anyone watching this, if you think someone being in a room, the presence of somebody in a room of a bunch of people is harassment, you're a fucking delusional fuckwit. And I can say that as someone who's actually been to court legally for harassment. Seeing your ex-girlfriend drive their car down the road doesn't mean that they're harassing you. Somebody you don't like, or somebody you don't like critiquing you, having their breath in the same vicinity of you, even in a 1-mile radius, that's not harassment. Stop using words to describe things that aren't reality. So you can bet your left nutsack that Anita will be at VidCon next year, and that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with Hank Green giving second chances to people. But there clearly is a bias here when Hank, reaches out and talks to Anita Sarkeesian, but refuses, or I shouldn't say the word refuse, that's the wrong word, doesn't talk to Sargon of Akkad. Maybe Hank Green will reach out to Sargon in the next few months, I don't know. But it just goes to show how one-sided and biased this situation and scenario is when he doesn't even reach out to the other person who was completely innocent, sitting in an audience doing nothing to provoke anyone. That is not a crime. That should not be condemned, but most of all, he should be allowed to listen to what somebody has to say at a panel. Honest to God, if I was at VidCon, I would have been in that front row. I would have sat and I would want to hear what Anita Sarkeesian has to say, despite my videos of me critiquing her opinions on the trope versus video games. Is that wrong for me to want to actually hear what they have to say in person? But ladies and gentlemen, this cake has not finished baking yet. So Anita Sarkeesian was on a panel with Boogie. I love Boogie. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. I watch almost every single one of his videos. He is overall just a lovable dude. I love him. But I gotta respond to just a little bit of stuff right here.
And even during that panel, some people who were sitting right near the front are people she considers to be detractors of hers. And she became so nervous and felt so attacked that she actually called one of those detractors names right to their face. I'm sure you've heard about this controversy. And because of that, I began to be very afraid that if she disagreed with me, she might do the same during our panel, making me feel very uncomfortable and making the audience feel very uncomfortable. And that's definitely not something I could handle. And my anxiety got so bad that really up to about an hour before the panel, I had every intention of canceling on them. But I really don't like upsetting the VidCon team. And I didn't want to have to try to explain all of that to them, the reason I was canceling, but why I would be doing everything else I did that day. And I also thought that could be perceived as an attack. And I just wanted to do the panel, and I just wanted to hope for the best and hope that everything worked out. My anxiety got the best of me, and just about every YouTuber I know, and even some of my fans, and even a fellow panelist that I got to spend some time with, and even the moderator for the panel, I ran by all of my talking points and asked, do you think this is something that would be offensive? Do you think this is something that would upset Anita or anybody else in the audience? I wanted to make sure to get this right, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced. When I got to the green room for the panel, Anita was there, and I finally worked up the courage to introduce myself and let her know that I do like her Feminist Frequency series, that I find it challenging, and I like to have my misconceptions challenged, while I didn't always agree with her, I appreciated her making it, and tried to let her know that she was safe around me and everything was going to be fine. I think the only thing that could closely represent an attack on Anita is when she said that she hoped that everybody left the panel angry and bitter and ready to fight. I countered by saying that I personally don't feel those things, and I personally don't choose to do that. And I try to foster a community that's not angry and doesn't fight. I try to foster a community that celebrates beautiful things instead. But I looked directly at her as I said it when I was done, and she seemed comfortable and fine with that answer. Before you knew it, the panel was over, and the moderator said we had about 5 minutes if anybody had any closing statements. So I made a closing statement that it took about a minute to say, and I said that I wanted to remind everybody in the audience that I am a person of privilege as a white cis male, and then I went over the types of attacks that have happened to me again with the assassins and the boxes of feces and all of that kind of stuff.
It's a genuine, sincere question. Why are you using her language here? I don't understand why you would demonize yourself by saying you're a cis male. And that just goes to show, Boogie, that even when you use her level of lingo, her language of feminism, when you adhere to that type of line of thinking that you're a white male who has all this privilege and that you can't speak on any issue because you're white or whatever that be, even if you adopt that viewpoint, she's still gonna be pissed at you for something. You can't please this woman. And I believe Boogie is an amazing, sincere, genuine guy. I do. But this is just incredibly sad. This is the part that angers me more than anything about this whole situation, is how she would treat him. Someone who even adopted her own goddamn fucking pathetic language of demonizing anyone who's white, and yet she still ends up being a fucking cunt-ass bitch to him.
And then just try to remind the audience that if, whoever you are, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. And then try to remind everybody that this isn't a matter of identity politics. This is a human rights issue, that I think these types of attacks are human rights violations, and that we should all consider that so that we can be unified against them. A couple of more panelists had their closing arguments, and then we left the stage, and I'm shaking, very, very nervous, but I felt like it went well. And when I get off of the stage at the bottom of the panels, there's Anita, and she seemed to be very, very upset. And I don't remember exactly what she said. I'm paraphrasing here, but she said in a very upset that I think it was very fucking uncool that you said what you said there at the end, knowing that no one else would have enough time to respond. And I bet you can imagine how that affected my anxiety, because the exact focal point of my anxiety for the entire weekend, in fact, for the last 6 weeks, the nightmare scenario that I was terrified of actually had come true. I had upset somebody who I very, very much had tried to not upset and did not want to upset. And that's the event that everybody's asking me about, and they're wondering if that's true, and that is true. And I asked her for an opportunity to explain myself and explain my point of view, which she was more than glad to do. She invited me back to the green room, where we sat and talked for about 15 minutes. She explained her side of things. I explained my side of things. And while I don't think she agreed with me at the end, she was very willing to listen. And her case was pretty simple. She felt that she didn't get a chance to respond, and that she wasn't going to have enough time to respond, and that the thing that I said was very, very heavily weighted, and that she wanted to make sure that I knew that some people actually use that exact same argument to separate people rather than unify them, and that she did not feel it was a message of unity, and she was actually afraid that I was doing that on purpose, to try to take away from some of the things that she'd said during the panel. The only thing that she said to me that upset me at all as we talked to her past that point was she said that, even though I'm a white cis male, because of my size and my obesity, that's probably why I get a lot of that hate, and I should not phrase this kind of thing as a white cis male. I should phrase it as an obese person, and that's why I get the hate, and I don't necessarily agree.
At this point, I commend you, Boogie, because if I was in that situation and someone like her told me that, I would be enraged. I would be very upset. I would be hurt, actually, if someone told me that. It's because you're fat. It's because you're obese. Who is she to tell you that? To tell you the position of your cis white male privilege, on why the real reason you get bullied is because you're fat, not because you're a white cis male. Like, oh, fuck off, you stupid bitch. So far, these are all the events that have went down. And quite frankly, I think we've seen a new perspective of Anita Sarkeesian than we've seen here before on the internet. Specifically, in regards to her outside the media room, her filming videos, we have actually got to see how she reacts to people on the spot. And so far, she's blown out her own horn. She has shown people the type of person she really is by her behavior, but not only that, her actions. And that to me shows me so much more than any of her videos that she makes on YouTube could ever do. That she truly is a miserable person, someone who will exploit and scam and sympathize and victimize herself to any degree to garner money, to sympathy, empathy, but most of all, support from people and make them feel bad about not supporting her. I encourage dialogue. I want people to have conversations, even people who have polar opposite viewpoints, to be able to talk about things. That to me is so commendable. Being able to have differing views come together and talk is something that I strive for and I want to see, whether it be on YouTube or in person. But if we can't get past this, that person's a harasser because they've criticized me, because they've made a joke about me, because they've responded to my videos, you're never gonna get anywhere. Ever. You will never move forward. You can never have two narratives talk with one another without one condemning the other with some horrible, horrendous label that defines them for the rest of their lives. And we can disagree fundamentally on things, but overall, we're human. Being able to connect with humanity and the people around us, to have healthy relationships and friendships and dialogue, allows us to get a new perspective on the world around us, but allows us to learn new things about ourselves, but others that we may not already know. And that's what I want. But it seems to me that Anita here is hindering that, and I'm not sure that is ever going to change. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. All my social media and all the links, the article, Hank Green's response, Anita Sarkeesian's response, Boogie's video, they're all linked down below in the description. Expand this description. see more. You can see all the links. Join my Discord, my Patreon. We've just recently hit over $1,000 a month. Thank you guys so much. We've hit the milestone. Your support to me on Patreon means the fucking world, and I truly mean that, because as of right now, Patreon is really the only income I'm making through making content, since I don't really make any money off of ads anymore through YouTube because it's gone to shit. And I just want to say that I appreciate you patrons so fucking much, because you guys are giving me the motivation to even continue to continue to create content. And I want to thank you deep down in my I said almost groin, in my heart, for giving me the chance to create more content for you guys. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.